So it's June 8th and it's pretty late for tree planting. We've had a really hot stretch of weather. It got up to 95 yesterday, full sun. You would not want to plant a tree in that weather. And today we had a thunderstorm and it's gonna be rainy-ish and relatively cool. It won't be super evaporative for the next week or so. So I'm planting a couple trees that I meant to get to. And I actually did a video about this bed last fall or summer. And this was a destroy your lawn video where I essentially just flipped all this sod up with a shovel into a big mound, chunks that had grass growing out of the sides. I tried to get the grass facing downwards for the most part, but you don't always do a good job and you can't really get every piece hidden. And then what I did was I just flaked round bale hay on top of it. And the round bales sometimes come off in these flakes that are just like an inch or so thick of impenetrable straw. I mean, it takes a lot of force to rip it apart. And so that totally mulched the ground out. And this is my first time opening up that mulch, and this is what's underneath. I haven't added really anything. I think I added a little bit of chicken compost, but pretty minimal on that. And I already scared away the worms in the soil life, so unfortunately can't show that part, but there was tons of it in here for a pretty meager soil, to be honest. It's basically been under these spruce for years, and this pine and the walnut, and hasn't got a lot of sun and growth. So we'll see what happens. That's south, so there's some decent southern sun. It's gonna come in here. I'm just gonna plant this. This is a special Prunus davidiana. It's kind of a wild ancestor of the peach, and that's a wild ancestor of the Asian pear. So I'm gonna throw these in here, throw some comfrey around, a couple other things that'll take up the rest of the space really quickly, and I'll probably do an update in the fall once this thing has grown out for its first year. This is an update on the orchard, excuse me, that I've been working on the north end of the property. I've got a pawpaw and persimmon planting over there, and this is a 300-foot long field where there's going to be 3 rows. I did talk about a little bit about the orchard design in a previous video that I'll link to, and we got a little bit behind, but this spring I was able to work the field up a little bit. I plowed it and dissed it, and then I seeded a mix of several different clover species, peas, turnips, I think trefoil is in there, and then oats. Oh no, trefoil is not in there, because this is all winter kill cover crop. So by the end of the season, we will have an enormous amount of biomass in here. And what I'll probably end up doing is crimping it and then planting into that rather than mowing it off, because crimping will keep it more intact and the mulch will be more effective in the next season rather than being shred up into lots of little pieces. I don't know exactly what I'll crimp it with yet. I don't have anything specifically for crimping, but I would like to have something for that. So the cover crop came in really well. That's all oats. There are some weeds in here, but not too many. Some of the thistles, but they're getting shaded out pretty well. And I'll do another update later on, but this is the state of it now, as of June 5th. Quick update video about the swale on the other side of the road. It's kind of a nice time to look at it right now because a lot of it's in flower. You've got the crimson clover, turnips. There's trefoil somewhere in there, other species of clover. Anyway, all the spot that's covered in flowers right now would very likely, well, it probably wouldn't be just raw subsoil at this point anymore, but probably not much would be growing on there. You see there's a rock that didn't take any of the seeds. And this was just 2 really quick broadcast seedings. I'm pretty happy with the results. There's maybe the crimson clover. Some bees are happy with it. That's Bombus affinis, I think. Maybe a little bit more diversity in the clover would have been nice. I think I did have white and red clovers in there, and maybe they're just taking their time a little bit. There's some yellow clover, yellow sweet clover coming in. I think it's because crimson clover isn't really an annual, but sometimes it acts like an annual. And so here it is really taking over the space very quickly, very early on. The turnips kind of already flowered, hit their peak flower a little while ago. And wondering whether any of, I put some, drew some artichoke farther up the hill. There they are. Those were some tubers that were like the size of 2 fists together, so those will take over this entire spot by next year, I'm sure. Even with that competition, they're pretty stout plants. So it pretty much goes all the way down another 600, 700, 800 feet to the end of the property. And I kind of couldn't be happier. This would more or less, like I said, it wouldn't be, it's not that no plants would have grown here, but there certainly wouldn't be this much flower and this much nitrogen fixation and this much life. So it's sort of, I think, a pretty great success. Whenever you see bare soil, even if it's completely scraped subsoil and rock, if you have that opportunity really early on in the spring, before other things start growing, to throw on some seed that will germinate early and take up the space, clovers, turnip, anything in the brassica family, seems to be a win for living systems for the rest of the entire season. There's some of the red clover. I did not put in the daisies, but there were also a bunch of perennials that I put in there. There's Turkish rocket that may make an appearance later on, and even some tree species. And it's kind of, the race is on between now and the next time they have to come and dig the ditch. But certainly worthwhile. I mean, I put in a total of maybe 20 minutes of effort to get all this happening. So anyway, just food for thought. Definitely worth putting a little bit of time into that end if you find yourself in a similar situation.